Young and the Restless. Who is Matt Clark and what's his dark secret? Sharon's terrifying fear exposed? Sharon's tormentor from back in the day, Matt Clark, supposedly died back in 2001. But now the mega-villain popped up alive and ready to do bad things to Sharon and Nick. Again, now I was super excited when we first heard that Y&R landed soap vet Roger Howarth. If you don't know his work from other soaps, Roger is a super nice guy, very soft-spoken, kind of shy in real life, and he plays villains so well. First, Young and the Restless revealed that he was playing Sienna's husband, Mitch. But then came the shocking reveal he is recast mega monster Matt Clark. He terrorized and traumatized Sharon on and off from the early 1990s up until his death in 2001. And he did a lot of horrible things to Nick as well. But right now, Matt's living undercover as Mitch. And nobody in Los Angeles knows about his sordid and criminal past in Genoa City because Holden Novak, Nathan Owens, has known him for years and years and has no idea. Longtime Young and the Restless watchers obviously were stunned to hear the name Matt Clark, but not as surprised as Sharon when she bumped into Matt, who lied and said his name was Mitch. He started gaslighting Sharon immediately, insisting his name was Mitch. She's mistaken. He doesn't know what she's talking about. And then he walked away and had the bouncer block her from going into his club. A villain's origin. The early days of Matt Clark. So if you're newer to Young and the Restless or need a refresher because it's been 2 decades, here's the important stuff real quick that you need to know about Matt Clark. When they first introduced the character onto Y&R, it was 1994 and Hunky Eddie Cibrian originated the role. In 2000, Russell Lawrence took over the role for 4 months and then Rick Hurst took over as Matt Clark up until his presumed death in 2001. Rick Hurst is another one who plays villains like nobody's business. He is incredible. So when Matt first came onto the scene on Y&R, it was way back when Nick and Sharon were in high school. She dated Matt and then he and Nick quickly became enemies and then rivals for her attention because Nick also wanted to be with Sharon. Now, eventually she did choose Nick over Matt and then the two guys got into a terrible physical fistfight altercation and Nick was badly beaten. Not long after that, Matt raped Sharon and that triggered her to go into this deep depression. Young and the Restless. Matt reveals Sharon's secret as payback. And then Matt started dating Sharon's best friend, Amy Wilson, Robin Scott/Julianne Morris. So at a high school dance, Nick and Sharon won king and queen. And that set Matt off. So he went to Nick and said that Sharon was not a virgin, which Nick thought she was. And Matt also said that Sharon had a baby that she gave up for adoption when she was 16. And that right there, that reference is to Mariah and Cassie's birth, just by the way. So at first when Matt told him all this, we had Nick going and confronting Sharon. He was angry that she had hid this stuff from him, but hothead Nick eventually got past it and he proposed to Sharon. And then right before her wedding to Nick, we saw Sharon finally tell Nick that Matt had raped her back in the day. Nick was furious and he went to confront Matt, but Nick found Matt shot and lying in a pool of his own blood. However, he survived and then he accused Nick of shooting him. And of course, Matt was lying, but Nick was arrested, found guilty, and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Young and the Restless. Nick's exoneration and Matt's new identity. Well, Victor wasn't going to let this stand. And he tracked down Matt's ex-girlfriend Amy, who was in a mental health facility suffering from PTSD. And it turns out it was Amy who shot Matt because he had also raped her. This guy is a horrible creep. So Nick was exonerated and then Matt ran away from Genoa City in 1996. Fast forward 4 years later. It's 2000. Matt returns with a new face. He had gotten plastic surgery to alter his appearance. And in addition to a new face, he had changed his name to Carter Mills. So when he first came back using the fake identity of Carter, it was initially Russell Lawrence as the recast. He played the role from July through October of 2000. And then in October, Rick Hurst took over the recast role and played Matt until the character died in 2001. So, just for purpose of clarity, I'm not going to call him Carter. I'm going to keep calling him Matt, even though he was using the name Carter back then. Young and the Restless. Matt gets Nick tossed in jail. Okay. So back in 2000, Matt came back to Genoa City and he got a job at Crimson Lights, which back then Nick owned with Sharon. And right away, he started causing trouble. So Matt got this woman that he was sleeping with to frame Nick for selling drugs. And Nick wound up going to jail. And while he was behind bars, Matt got close to Sharon, but she didn't know it was her high school rapist because he had a new face. So Matt drugged Sharon and he nearly raped her again. But by then, Nick had gotten out of prison and showed up just in time to save Sharon. And finally, after a bunch of bad stuff, the police realized that Carter was really Matt with plastic surgery, and they started a manhunt for him. Meanwhile, Sharon was with Matt in a remote cabin and he almost raped Sharon again, but that time Victor intervened and stopped it. So later, Matt's ex-girlfriend, the one with PTSD, drove them over a cliff trying to kill herself and Matt. She survived, but his injuries were too severe. And he was in the hospital laying there dying, still scheming till the bitter end. And Matt lied and told Nick that he raped Sharon again. So then Matt pulled out his own breathing tube to try and frame Nick for his murder. Young and the Restless. Matt's last dying scheme traumatizes Sharon and Nick. Nick was initially a suspect but was later exonerated. And then Sharon found out she was pregnant. So because Matt had lied and said he raped her, Nick was worried that the creep was the father of her baby. And Nick was pressuring Sharon to do a paternity test while she was pregnant. But back then it was a lot riskier for a fetus. So she refused to do it and Nick was angry and he and Sharon argued and then she tripped and fell. Went into early labor and the baby was stillborn. They did posthumous paternity test and it confirmed that Nick was the father. So this series of events traumatized Sharon and Nick and it messed up their relationship. Bottom line, Matt's a terrible human, a repeat rapist, a criminal, and an all-around creep. And Sienna has no idea she is married to a monster. She does not know the name Matt Clark, and he wants to keep his wife Sienna in the dark and keep living his fake identity. Has seen its fair share of dark and twisted figures. But few names strike a chill down the spine quite like Matt Clark. A ghost from the past with a history soaked in obsession, violence, and revenge, Matt Clark remains one of the most sinister presences to ever walk the streets of the small Wisconsin town. And now, decades later, whispers of his name have returned. Sharon Newman, Sharon Case, can't shake the feeling that her past has come back to haunt her, and the mention of Matt's name has reopened wounds she thought had long healed. But who exactly was Matt Clark? And why is Sharon terrified that his dark secret might not be buried after all? The obsessive past that defined Matt Clark. Matt Clark first entered the Genoa City scene in the early 1990s. A handsome yet calculating young man whose charm masked deep instability. He was Nick Newman's, Joshua Morrow, rival for Sharon's affection, and at first, he seemed like the all-American boyfriend type. Smooth-talking, confident, and dangerously persuasive. But behind that facade was something much darker. When Sharon chose Nick over him, Matt's obsession spiraled out of control. He couldn't accept rejection and began to unravel, turning his heartbreak into vengeance. His fixation on Sharon became all-consuming, pushing him to commit acts that would forever scar her. His cruel manipulation, violent temper, and twisted need for control led to a series of horrifying incidents, culminating in Sharon being attacked in one of the most harrowing storylines of the Young and the Restless history. Though Matt appeared to have been dealt with years ago, the trauma he inflicted on Sharon never truly faded. His name alone is enough to send her back into that dark place. The fear, the guilt, and the pain of being hunted by someone she once trusted. A shadow in the present. Why Sharon can't shake the feeling. In recent weeks, Sharon has been on edge. She's been experiencing eerie déjà vu moments, the flicker of headlights outside crimson lights, strange phone calls that go silent when she answers, and a feeling of being watched. When she mentioned it to Nick, he brushed it off as stress. After all, Sharon has been juggling her mental health, running her coffee shop, and coping with the constant turmoil surrounding her family. But Sharon knows better. This isn't just anxiety. It's instinct. And then came the name. An anonymous message slipped under her door late one night, containing only 4 chilling words. Matt Clark isn't gone. Sharon froze. Her mind spun as she tried to rationalize it. Matt Clark was dead, or so she'd been told. He had been shot years ago after returning to Genoa City to torment her and Nick once more. His end seemed final, but what if it wasn't? Could someone be pretending to be him? Could someone be using his name to torment her again? Or was it possible that Matt's dark legacy wasn't truly over? Nick's dilemma. Protecting Sharon or facing the truth? When Sharon confided in Nick about the message, he was torn. Part of him wanted to reassure her, to insist that Matt Clark was buried and gone for good. But another part of him, the protective side, couldn't ignore Sharon's intuition. Nick has seen enough in Genoa City to know that dead doesn't always mean gone. He began quietly digging into the situation, contacting old law enforcement sources and looking through records. What he found sent a shiver down his spine. Matt Clark's grave had recently been disturbed. The police chalked it up to vandalism, but Nick couldn't shake the sense that someone was trying to send a message. Could Matt Clark have had an accomplice all those years ago? Someone who knew the truth about what really happened? Or could a secret twin, a soap staple twist, be lurking in the shadows, ready to continue Matt's twisted vendetta? Sharon's nightmares return. The deeper Sharon tries to suppress her fear, the stronger it grows. Her nights are plagued by dreams, the kind she hasn't had in years. She sees Matt's face in her sleep, hears his voice whispering her name, feels his hand on her shoulder when no one is there. Even Faith and Mariah have noticed something is wrong. Sharon's been distant, distracted, and jumpy. When she nearly dropped a tray of coffee cups after hearing a loud knock on the door, it became clear that something deeper was at play. Then came the moment that shattered her calm completely. One morning, when opening Crimson Lights, Sharon found a single rose on the counter. The same kind Matt used to give her in high school. Attached to it was a note. "Miss me, beautiful?" Her hands trembled as she read it. The handwriting was eerily familiar. Is someone reviving Matt Clark's legacy? There are a few theories swirling around Genoa City. Some believe that someone close to Sharon is using Matt Clark's name to manipulate her. Perhaps a rival or someone trying to drive a wedge between her and Nick. Others suspect that a figure from Matt's past, maybe a relative or a former associate, has returned to settle unfinished business. But there's a darker possibility. That Matt Clark had hidden something before his death. A secret, perhaps connected to one of Genoa City's current residents. Something so explosive that someone is willing to resurrect his name to protect it. And if Sharon is the key to uncovering that truth, she could be in grave danger once again.